I remember the first time I noticed something off. It was a Tuesday, mundane, unspectacular. Our daughter, Eliza, had just finished her violin lesson with Marcus, the new tutor. He was a mild-mannered, somewhat eccentric guy in his early 40s, with an unshaven look and fingers that always seemed to twitch like they were playing invisible strings. I'd thought nothing of him initially. After all, he was just the music guy. Harmless. But then the lessons started to run longer. Marcus says Eliza's showing promise, my wife, Lauren, explained with a soft smile. He's giving her a little extra time when he can. Seemed generous of him. I was glad someone thought Eliza was talented. But a few weeks later, I came home earlier than usual and heard laughter, soft, intimate. It wasn't the kind of laughter you share with a tutor. It was the kind that curled around your spine and whispered of familiarity. Still, I told myself it was nothing. I trusted Lauren. We'd been together for 12 years. Built a life. Raised a daughter. You don't throw suspicion at someone like that over a laugh. But the unease lodged in my chest like a splinter. One night, I passed by the living room and found the two of them sitting a little too close, their heads bowed over the violin sheet music. Her hand rested on the back of his chair. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe it meant everything. I didn't say anything. I brushed it off. Until one evening, Eliza said something that pierced through my facade of denial like a dagger dipped in truth. Mom's learning violin too, she said innocently, dragging her backpack across the hallway. She said it helps her understand how hard it is for me. I paused. She's taking lessons. With Marcus. Yeah. Sometimes after mine. But she says it's a secret, like a surprise for you. A surprise. The kind you don't want to open. That night, I laid awake next to Lauren, watching the slow rise and fall of her breath. My mind was ablaze. It wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was something more sinister, a creeping confirmation. I began to notice the way her phone never left her side, the new perfume she said a friend recommended, and the sudden bursts of giddy energy followed by distant moods. I started keeping track of lesson times, of Marcus's car parked just a little too long in our driveway, of whispered conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. One day, I followed her, not far, just to confirm she was where she said she'd be. She wasn't at the grocery store. She was at a cafe. With him. They weren't touching. But they were leaning in too close, and her laugh, God, that laugh, was the same one I'd heard in our living room. I didn't confront her then. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to tear down everything. But I took a photo. Just one. As proof that I wasn't crazy. That night, Lauren curled up to me, warm and soft and familiar, and asked how my day was. I lied and said it was fine. But the truth was, something inside me had started to break. For a while, I convinced myself it wasn't what it looked like. Lauren was friendly. Maybe too friendly sometimes, yes, but she had always been warm with people. And Marcus, well, he was a musician. They're naturally expressive, right? Artistic types leaned into emotional energy. That didn't mean they were having an affair. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about that cafe. Her hand brushing his as she laughed into her tea, her body angled toward him like a flower craning toward the sun. It was the kind of openness that had once been mine. The kind I hadn't seen in months. I tried to talk myself out of it. Every time the paranoia surged, I drowned it with logic. I told myself I was being unfair, projecting my own insecurities. Lauren had never given me reason not to trust her. But trust, once cracked, doesn't hold water. The next week, I came home to find her humming, a soft, lilting tune that sounded vaguely familiar. Eliza was upstairs, and Lauren was alone in the kitchen, chopping onions with unusual focus. Is that new? I asked. She turned, almost startled. What? The song. She smiled. Oh. Just something Marcus played during Eliza's lesson. It stuck in my head. It shouldn't have hurt. But it did. That man's music, his presence, had begun to echo in places where I used to live. In our kitchen. In her voice. In our shared silence. That evening, she left her phone on the coffee table and stepped out to take a call. I didn't mean to look. But the screen lit up. A message preview. Marcus, can't stop thinking about last night. You're amazing. I felt my throat close. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. I stared at it for what felt like a century, the words burning into my vision like afterimages from staring at the sun too long. When she returned, I pretended I hadn't seen a thing. We ate dinner. We talked about bills and groceries and Eliza's school project on Beethoven. I kissed her goodnight. And then I sat alone in the living room, staring into the blank screen of the TV, trying to piece together a strategy for survival. I wasn't sure yet what I wanted. Did I want to confront her? Catch her? Forgive her? Or was I just hoping it would all stop on its own, like a bad dream from which I might suddenly wake up? The next morning, I stood in the doorway as Lauren helped Eliza pack her violin. Marcus's car pulled into the driveway, right on time. I watched as my wife greeted him at the door, her smile blooming like a secret garden she never let me in anymore. And I realized something terrifying. I was losing her. But worse than that, I was letting her go. Something shifted in me after I saw that message. I could no longer pretend. I couldn't tell myself I was imagining things, or that it was innocent. It was there, etched in pixels, vibrating with intent. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I became quiet. Not cold, not angry. Just distant. Watching. I started noticing everything. The way she touched her hair when she spoke about Marcus. The way she would disappear into the bedroom after dinner with her phone, whispering behind a closed door. The new lingerie I found tucked into the laundry basket, tags removed, never worn for me. And Eliza. Eliza, who was innocent in all of this, who still lit up every time Marcus entered the room. She loved her lessons. He was patient with her, kind. That, too, made it worse. He wasn't just a stranger invading my life. He was someone Eliza trusted. Someone she looked up to. I hated him for it. I started staying home from work early. Not every day, just enough to break patterns. Enough to keep them guessing. And sure enough, one afternoon, I came in through the side door and heard soft music drifting through the walls. A duet. Violin and piano. Her voice, not Eliza's. I crept closer. Through the crack of the studio door, I saw her, my wife, eyes closed, bow trembling in her hand, as Marcus played beside her. Their bodies moved in synchronicity, closer than the music demanded. It was intimate. Not overtly sexual, but undeniably close. I stepped back before they saw me. That night, I drank alone. I sat on the back porch staring at the stars, trying to remember when she'd stopped looking at me like I was her world. When had I become invisible? She joined me an hour later. Sat beside me without a word. "I've missed you lately," she said quietly. I turned to her. Her eyes were honest. At least, they looked that way. "Have you?" I asked. She nodded. "I know I've been distracted. With Eliza's lessons. And things. Are you learning violin too?" I asked. She smiled. A little. "Why didn't you tell me?" She hesitated. "Because I wanted it to be something just for me. I haven't had that in a long time." I swallowed that answer like glass. She kissed me goodnight. I didn't kiss back. A few nights later, Eliza came into our bedroom while we were watching TV. Her hair was wet from the bath, her face pink and fresh. "Mom, when are you and Marcus going to play that song again? The one you played last week. I want to record it for my school project." Lauren froze. "You played for her?" I asked, keeping my tone flat. "Just once," she replied too quickly. She asked. But Eliza tilted her head. "No, you were showing him that new song you wrote." Lauren's eyes darted to mine. I looked at her and saw a crack run through her facade, a hairline fracture in the porcelain comb she always wore. The next morning, I checked her phone. It was wrong, I know. But I had crossed the boundary in my heart days ago. There were no new messages. Nothing from Marcus. But there were deleted threads. I found an app that recovered deleted texts. And there they were. Dozens of them. Can't wait to hold you again. You still taste like that wine we had the first night. Do you ever think about telling him? I sat on the bathroom floor, the cold tiles biting into my skin as I read each message, shaking. The truth wasn't creeping anymore. It was screaming. And it was time to answer. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Not with those words still echoing in my head, her words. His. I went through them again and again, hoping that if I read them enough times, I might find an explanation that made it all okay. But every message only twisted the knife deeper. Morning came, pale and cold, and I watched her in the kitchen, making coffee like nothing had changed. Like our marriage wasn't on fire behind her. I followed her into the living room, the phone in my hand. She looked up, startled. We need to talk, I said. Her eyes dropped to the phone. She understood immediately. Where did you get those? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her shoulders slumped, and she sat down slowly, as if the weight of it all had finally settled on her. How long? I asked. She opened her mouth but nothing came out. How long, Lauren? 3 months, she whispered. It just happened. No, I snapped. That's what people say when they don't want to take responsibility. A tree falling happens. A car crash happens. Sleeping with my daughter's tutor doesn't just happen. She started to cry, hands trembling in her lap. I hated how part of me still wanted to comfort her. I didn't mean to fall for him, she said. It started with the music. I felt seen. I didn't plan it. You were so busy all the time, so far away even when you were home. I stared at her in disbelief. So this is my fault now? No, she said quickly. No, I'm not blaming you. I'm just trying to explain. But the damage was done. I felt the surge of fury, not just at her, but at myself, for all the times I dismissed my instincts, for every night I held her while she whispered his name in her thoughts. And then, a small voice interrupted us. Mom. We both turned. Eliza stood at the foot of the stairs, her eyes wide and filled with fear. She had heard us. My heart broke in that instant. Everything else, the betrayal, the lies, the rage, became background noise compared to the look on her face. Lauren ran to her, but Eliza pulled back. You were lying, she asked. About the music. About Marcus. Lauren didn't speak. She couldn't. I stepped forward and knelt beside our daughter. Sweetheart, I said softly. This is something very hard for all of us right now. But I promise you, I'm here. Always. She buried her face into my shoulder, and I held her, my own tears falling into her hair. Later, Lauren tried to talk to me again. She begged me not to end it. She said she still loved me, that this was just a mistake. But something had cracked. And no matter how much music you pour into it, a cracked violin never sounds the same again. I told her I needed time. Space. That she should stay with her sister for a while. She left that night, the silence between us heavier than anything we'd ever said aloud. And I stayed behind, in the house we built, surrounded by echoes of the life I thought we had. But the worst part? It wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing that love, real love, doesn't always survive the truth. The house was quieter than I'd ever known it. Not just in sound, but in spirit. Lauren was gone, staying with her sister like I asked. But her presence still haunted every corner, the half-empty closet, the coffee mug she always forgot on the windowsill, the faint smell of her shampoo in our bathroom. Eliza, sweet Eliza, was a shadow of herself. She didn't ask for lessons anymore. She wouldn't even touch her violin. I tried to talk to her. I tried to get her to open up, to tell me what she was feeling. But she just stared past me, through me. I'd lost my wife. I couldn't bear the thought of losing my daughter too. One evening, a week after Lauren left, I found Eliza in the backyard, sitting on the swing, her eyes puffy from crying. I sat next to her. Do you hate Mom now? She asked quietly. I wanted to say no. I wanted to give her the easy answer. But I couldn't lie to her. Not anymore. I don't hate her, I said. But I'm hurt. Really hurt. And confused. And angry. She nodded like she understood. But she didn't. Not yet. How could she? She lied, Eliza said. She said music was something we'd all share. But it was just theirs. Her words cut deeper than I expected. I put my arm around her and pulled her close. It's still yours, I said. It always was. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure she believed me. Later that night, Lauren called. I almost didn't answer. But something in me needed to hear her voice, maybe to understand, maybe to confirm the final break. Have you talked to Eliza? She asked. She's hurt, I said flatly. She feels betrayed. Just like I do. There was silence. I didn't mean to destroy us, she whispered. You didn't just destroy us, I said. You changed the way she sees you. That's what hurts the most. She cried then, quietly. And for a moment, I remembered the woman I fell in love with. The woman who laughed through the pain of childbirth. Who danced barefoot in our kitchen to old soul records. I missed her. God, I missed her. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. Or maybe I just wasn't the same man. After we hung up, I walked into our bedroom and pulled the violin from its case. It hadn't been touched in weeks. I didn't play. I just held it. Felt the weight of it. The fragility. The beauty that had been tainted by what it now represented. I placed it gently back into the case. In the days that followed, I began therapy. I made Eliza come with me once a week. She resisted at first, but eventually, she started to talk. Just a little. Progress came in inches. Lauren tried to reach out. Letters. Messages. Apologies. I didn't answer most of them. I wasn't ready. And deep down, I wasn't sure I ever would be. But I wasn't angry all the time anymore. Just tired. So tired of feeling like a character in someone else's story. Time passed, as it always does, indifferent to the weight of the moments it carries. Lauren stayed away. She texted occasionally, small check-ins, always respectful, always restrained. I never told her to stop, but I rarely responded. There was too much to untangle first. Too much that couldn't be undone with apologies. Eliza and I slowly rebuilt our rhythm. We cooked together more, nothing elaborate, just little things. Pancakes. Grilled cheese. She'd talk more now, though never about the violin. Or her mother. Some days I caught her glancing toward the music room, then turning away as if it hurt her to look too long. I knew that pain. I lived with it too. One night, about 2 months after the confrontation, I got a knock on the door. Not a text. Not a phone call. Lauren. She stood there in the cold, bundled up, eyes ringed with dark circles that no amount of makeup could hide. In her hands was a brown paper bag. I made dinner, she said softly. Enough for you and Eliza. I thought maybe. I let her in. I didn't say a word. She set the food down on the kitchen counter, her movements small and tentative. She looked around like she was trying to remember the shape of home. Eliza peeked from the hallway, froze when she saw her. I'll go, Lauren said quickly. I wanted to do something. Even if it's small. Eliza didn't speak. But after a long moment, she stepped forward and hugged her mother. Just briefly. Just enough. Lauren broke down. I didn't comfort her. Not because I was cruel, but because I couldn't. She asked if we could talk sometime. Just talk. No expectations. I nodded. Later, when Eliza had gone to bed and the house was quiet again, I stood in the doorway of the music room. Dust had gathered on the piano. Sheet music sat untouched. The silence in the room was thick with memories, both beautiful and ruined. I walked in and sat down, letting my fingers hover over the keys. I hadn't played in years. But I began to play anyway. Not for anyone else. Not for reconciliation. For me. The notes were clumsy, halting at first. But they were mine. Pure. Unfiltered. Outside the room, Lauren stood watching. She didn't say anything. She just listened. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was being watched by a stranger. I still didn't know where we were headed. Whether this detour in our lives would end in separation or some kind of rebirth. But I knew this much. I was no longer stuck in the moment of betrayal. I had stepped out of the wreckage, broken but breathing. And sometimes, survival looks like playing music in a room full of ghosts, and not letting them take the melody from you. Rebuilding, I learned, wasn't always about piecing things back together. Sometimes it was about learning to live with the gaps. Lauren and I started meeting weekly. Always neutral places. A cafe. A bench by the lake. Sometimes we spoke. Sometimes we just sat. I never told her we were getting back together. I didn't make promises. But I didn't push her away either. I think we both understood, this wasn't reconciliation. This was reckoning. She talked more now. About how it started. About what she felt was missing. About how music, for a moment, made her feel alive again. I felt invisible, she admitted once, her eyes red. Not because you made me feel that way. But because I stopped seeing myself in the mirror. That admission haunted me. Not because I excused what she did, but because I finally understood how far she drifted from herself before she drifted from me. She was still seeing Marcus, at least for a while after she left. But she ended it. Not for me, not even out of guilt, but because she said he didn't know her. Not really. He loved the version of me that only existed when I played music, she said. You loved the woman who snored when she was sick and cried at cereal commercials. That made me laugh. A sad, nostalgic laugh. Eliza remained our priority. We didn't lie to her. We didn't sugarcoat. But we protected her from the ugliest edges of it. She knew we were working through things, separately and together. One night, she asked if she could go back to her lessons, with a new teacher. I still love music, she said. Even if Mom and Marcus ruined it for a while. That night, I wept. Quietly. Alone. Not because she was hurting, but because she was healing. In her own way, on her own terms. We attended her recital weeks later. Lauren sat 2 rows down from me, but we didn't speak. Eliza played beautifully. And when she finished, she scanned the room, found us both, and smiled. In that smile, I saw hope. Not for the old life to return, but for something new. Something honest. Afterward, Lauren approached me outside. Would you ever consider, she began, then stopped. Not going back. But, starting over. Fresh. I didn't answer right away. I looked up at the night sky, at the stars that burned despite everything that tried to swallow their light. I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm not angry anymore. She nodded. And for now, that was enough. Spring came, slow and soft, brushing the house with new light. The same house, but no longer the same home. Lauren and I weren't back together. Not officially. Not romantically. We hadn't even said the word rebuild out loud. But there was an unspoken agreement between us, to keep showing up for Eliza. To be kind. To be honest. She'd come by sometimes, just for dinner, or to help with school projects. There was no tension anymore. Only a quiet understanding, like 2 people who had climbed down from a war they didn't want to fight anymore. Eliza, for her part, began to laugh again. That was my anchor. One Saturday, I was in the kitchen when she came bounding in, holding a new sheet of music. Her new tutor, a kind, soft-spoken woman named Marissa, had given her a challenging solo. She wanted help practicing. Dad, will you play piano with me again? It took a moment to answer. But then I smiled. Always. We played. Stumbling, laughing, pausing too often, but we played. And the house that had once echoed with betrayal now trembled with something delicate and beautiful. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. That night, I found an envelope on the piano. Lauren's handwriting. Inside was a letter. I know what I did can't be erased. I know I broke something sacred. But I've also learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting go of what keeps us anchored in pain. If you ever find a place for me in your life again, I'll be here. Not waiting. Just open. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't moved, but because I had no more grief left to give her. That night, I burned the letter. Not out of anger. Out of release. Some things belong to the past, not buried in shame, but acknowledged and set free. Lauren continued to visit. Eventually, she began dating someone new. She told me early on, not to hurt me, but because we were rebuilding something else now, friendship. And I felt nothing but peace. Eliza thrived. She performed at recitals. Joined an ensemble. She even started writing her own music. One morning, she played a song she'd written herself. She called it Resonance. When she finished, I asked, "What's it about?" She smiled. "It's about people who stop loving each other but still care. Like echoes that don't fade." I hugged her, tighter than I had in months. Because in her music, I heard the truth of it all. Love doesn't always last the way we expect. Sometimes it leaves. Sometimes it breaks. But sometimes, it lingers, in kindness, in co-parenting, in forgiveness. And sometimes, that's enough.